And already some folks are dividing over who and what is to blame for the anger we saw in Dallas. Joining me now, the Reverend Jesse Jackson of the Rainbow Push Coalition. Reverend, great to see you tonight. So let's talk about this because, there's been, rhetoric. You and I talked about some things that you said just the other night, dismissing these cops down in Louisiana as racist. You called it a lynching, a murder even. And yet we've also seen some bad shootings, and we've seen out of the Black Lives Matter movement, of which this man was not a part, this shooter in Dallas, chants like pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon, what do we want, dead cops. Talk about your thoughts on the rhetoric and the need for responsibility on both sides. Let's try this again. I'm trying to get his audio. I can see you speaking, sir. There we go. Go ahead.
All the condolences to the families and the Philando Castile family here in St. Paul, Minnesota as well. Secondly, that act of terror last night had nothing to do with a strategy of the civil rights struggle in our country. We strongly condemn in every way possible a planned attack to kill innocent people that happen to have been police. That has no place. I think that there are a number of growing hate groups in our country, but more than hate groups, they have access to military weapons that are stronger than the police can carry, and that's what makes them real dangerous.
But I guess it's been made evident now that this guy was part of some black nationalist group or Black Panther group, or a bunch of groups, according to Rick Leventhal's reporting.
Well, if you look at poverty laws, there are a number of white hate groups all over the country,
so what,
and they're heavily armed.
But so what are we going to do? Are we going to? I mean, do you believe we should have a law that denies access to anybody who's in a hate group to weapons?
Well, actually, you have to consider, you have to weigh the relative strength or weakness of these groups. When groups can have open and carry military assault weapons, stronger than the police can carry, they can shoot up theaters and churches and can shoot down airplanes. How can we fight a war against weapons of mass destruction, make them available to people on the street corners of our country? It's much too dangerous, Megan.
I know that you have called out some of the rhetoric we've heard from Donald Trump and some of his supporters. But are you willing to call out some of the rhetoric we've heard? For example, the man who led our show tonight, he calls himself a reverend. He says he was out there last night saying, "Goddamn white America." Forgive me, that's what he was saying. I mean, this kind of thing, if you're going to call it out on the one side, you got to call it out on all. Well,
that type of language does not inform us. It does not inspire us. It does not help us. And so we must be very disciplined in our rhetoric. Even through our pain, we must have a rhetoric flow that lifts us up and not tears us down. I say that 5 people are dead and 5 police are dead in Dallas tonight and 7 are wounded. That is a critical situation. But there's a pattern of blacks being killed by police. We cannot get off that agenda. I mean, in some sense, the killing.
But now there's a pattern of cops being killed too. Cops being ambushed.
Well, if you look at the number of the balance of it, the far more cops are killing people. But people should not be killing people. And we need not get in an argument about who kills the most. We should stop the killing. Easy access to high-powered weapons is a danger to American security, and it does not make sense to be fighting wars against weapons of mass destruction while you can buy online weapons that can bring down airplanes. It's totally irrational to me in the name of Second Amendment.
Reverend Jackson, great to see you.
Good to see you, ma'am.